Hi, it's Dr. Brian Boxer-Wackler. I'm going to be showing you the webinar that we recently held regarding how to stay safe regarding coronavirus as states are opening up, and I hope you enjoy it. And I want to cover a lot of questions that people are having about what they should do in terms of the coronavirus resurgence, because we actually are seeing a number of cases in various states that have been, in fact, increasing. So I first want to mention, if you have any questions, email your questions to info@boxerwackler.com, and then I'll be able to get those questions and then answer them, so we can try to answer all the questions that you may have out there. So first, I'd just like to say that the coronavirus, the actual virus family, is not a new virus. That family of viruses, the coronavirus's family, has been around, but the COVID-19 is a new strain, which is why sometimes you'll hear in the news they say a novel coronavirus. It's a virus that spreads very similar to the flu or the common cold. So I think that's the number one fact that's important for people to realize, because if you really watch a lot of news, which in this time it's a little hard not to, it can make you feel very anxious, worried, paranoid, cause a lot of anxiety, in fact. But just remember that this virus spreads no different than the flu. Now, it does spread more effectively and efficiently than the flu, and the side effects can be, in people who are at risk, larger in terms of some of the things that can happen, the bad things that can happen. But in terms of how it spreads from person to person, it's exactly like the flu, or in fact the common cold. Remember that if you get the virus on your hands, whether it's through shaking somebody's hand, or it's touching a doorknob or pushing an elevator button, and somebody before you had the virus on their hands and touch that surface, and you come along and touch that surface shortly after, you can get it on your hands. Now, having the virus, the coronavirus, the flu, or the common cold just on your hands, no problem. Not going to do anything. It doesn't suddenly jump from your hands like into your mouth and into your body and infect you. You need to do something with your hands, if it has the virus on there, for it to get inside your system, and it's through a mucous membrane. So the three common mucous membranes are the eyes, the outer part of the eye, the conjunctiva is a mucous membrane, the nose, mucous membrane, and of course the mouth. So a lot of times people will touch their faces, not even think about it. That is probably 95+% of how people get infected, is because they forgot to wash their hands with warm soapy water, or use a hand sanitizer, or some other sort of cleaning, disinfecting agent that will actually then kill the virus. Now, another recommendation is wearing the mask. And so that's been universal, like here in California as well. A lot of states recommend wearing a mask. Now, there's two types of masks. There's a mask that's like this, that it's not a big wraparound mask. The cloth masks, these are on the same category. You may have even been in an airport and seen people walking around who are wearing masks like this. Now, this type of mask is really designed to help prevent somebody who's sick from spreading a virus if they happen to cough. It's really the coughing or sneezing that can crop dust everything in front of them for up to 6 or more feet. So wearing a mask like this is, a very considerate thing to do if somebody is sick or not feeling well, because this will help block and blunt that spray if somebody coughs or sneezes. Now, will a mask like this prevent you from getting sick? And the answer is most likely not. And this is the reason why. Because if you think about it, you've got air coming in all around, so you're breathing in air, even if it's not through this, but maybe through this as well. This isn't great. This type of mask, or a cloth mask, isn't great for filtering incoming air that could have virus in it. So a lot of people might think that this is protecting them, but it's actually mostly protecting other people. Just like if through the airport, you see sometimes people wearing this is because they're being considerate for other people. Now, like when I do laser surgery, I wear an N95 mask. So this is the type of mask you hear about now, N95, a little bit of a buzzword. But this is a mask that filters down to the micron level of particles. So a mask like this can actually filter out incoming air that has viruses, or in my case, when I'm doing LASIK or doing PRK lasers, I wear this to block the laser vapors. And it does. It's very effective because it wraps around, creates a seal, and this is a surgical mask, essentially, or a mask for other situations that has to filter out particles or particulate matter that goes down to the micron level. So again, this is not something I recommend people wear unless they're healthcare providers in a situation where they're caring for people who are sick, that have respiratory-borne diseases like COVID. But if you're just like out and about, this really isn't necessary. Now, in terms of the recommendations that we've gone over, this is largely also supported by the World Health Organization, the WHO. They also recommend avoiding going into crowded places. And again, the social distancing has to do with if somebody is sick or sneezes and they're not wearing a mask, then it helps reduce the spread. So that's the reason why the social distancing recommended right now. Now, by the way, if you do sneeze, which everyone sneezes at some point, again, you don't want to just sneeze and just crop dust everything out in front of you. What you want to do if you're not wearing a mask is just like I recommend, even we've got twin daughters who are 14 now, and I've always told them, when you sneeze, kind of go into the bend of your elbow like this. Again, the reason why that's helpful is because it's just blocking that crop dusting effect of just sneezing right out into the open. This is like a mask in a way, it blocks it. So instead of the sneeze going out, it kind of gets blunted going out like this. Or again, if you sneeze in your hands, but then now it's on your hands. So this is really a better way to do that. One of the big values in wearing a mask like this is, again, not necessarily in preventing you from getting this from the air, because I said the air comes around, but it's a training tool. This is really key. It's a training tool to remind you not to touch your face, right? Because a lot of people, they might fidget and, but if you've got this on and it's right. I've got a mask. I've tried to touch my face. You don't even realize you put your hand up there. So the mask is actually a really good training tool to help you learn not to touch your face anymore. In New York City, it was just terrible, the number of cases and the number of hospitalizations and the number of deaths that occurred because of COVID. And I want to show you here a printout, and this is going to be a graph. It's going to be like a bar graph showing where the peaks were with the number of cases in New York City itself, not in the whole state, just New York City, and how it's come down over time. And you're going to see that at its peak, they were having over 6,000 cases a day in New York City. And that's a population of 8.4 million people. And it's tapered down now to around 200, a little less than 200 a day. So I just want to show you this right there. Make sure it might be backwards because it's on a Zoom here, but you can see where it peaked and how it's come down now into June. Now, this doesn't get a lot of play in the press, and I'm not really sure why, but we actually wrote with some colleagues of mine, we published an opinion article on the Los Angeles Daily News. And we were comparing the data from Tokyo to New York City. Now, Tokyo has the same level of density. This was really fascinating. Tokyo has the same level of density of people as New York City. In fact, it's even more dense. It has 9.27 million people in Tokyo compared to 8.4 million in New York City. So greater population, same density. Now this graph I'm going to show you is very striking because there was only one day during the pandemic that Tokyo had 200 cases. Now in contrast to New York City, they were maxing out at 6,000 cases a day. Tokyo maximum 200 cases. Now there is a little bit of an increase, which is what we're seeing with states that are opening up as well into June. but it's really not anywhere close to where they have been. So very big difference in the population for cases for COVID. Now, why is that occurring? I mean, it's not by half, it's not by a quarter. I mean, it's by less than a tenth. 200 versus 6,000. 600 would be 1/10. So this is a factor even less than that. So, of course, culturally, very different. Japanese culture, American culture, that's probably what's going to explain this difference. But some of the things that we can observe is the Japanese, when they meet people, they actually bow, right? They bow, they don't shake hands. So right there, that's a very big hygiene precaution that they naturally take because of their culture. And so shaking hands is probably a very big factor why Americans have had higher rates traditionally during the pandemic than Japan. And again, New York City versus Tokyo, that could be one factor. One thing that it cannot be, it can't be the density, because in Tokyo, the subways are packed with people. Absolutely packed. In fact, they even have conductors who push people like literally like sardines. They push them into the subways. So it's not one is less dense than the other. They still have very high levels of density of people right next to each other. So therefore, there's really not a lot of social distancing. And also another observation was that the Japanese government never shut down. They did not shut down Tokyo. They didn't shut down any cities, in fact. They encouraged people strongly to stay at home, work from home, but they never actually officially shut down the economy. It happened here. But yet, in spite of that, you see the very, very low rates. So I think that's a factor. And also the Japanese culture is traditionally known to be very clean. People are very clean. So perhaps the hygiene, washing their hands, perhaps they're much, much better at that traditionally than Americans have been. I don't know. But I think now there's been so much education in the media and in the press about the importance of the hygiene. I call it hygiene IQ. Washing your hands, don't touch your face, cough into your elbow. The main ways that people can boost their hygiene IQ to stay safe. Question just came in about vaccine. Lots of companies are working with the vaccine, and hopefully we'll have the vaccine by later in the year. When the vaccine eventually does become available, the question is it going to be like a flu vaccine, which is where you've got, every year you have to get it again, and it may not even work for that given year. Like the flu, they plan ahead of time when they're going to be making the vaccine, and they hope it's going to be what the strain of flu is, let's say in the fall. Now, the coronavirus is a very large virus compared to the flu, so it mutates a lot less frequently than the flu virus. So like if you think about the MMR vaccine, like mumps, measles, rubella, usually people get that, I think, once every 10 years. So the vaccine lasts for 10 years. So there's not a lot of mutations in those viruses. And the coronavirus is going to perform, similarly in that fashion. It's not going to mutate frequently, or it just, because it's a large virus relatively, it will take longer for it to mutate. So you won't likely be needing to get the, coronavirus or COVID vaccine every year like the flu. It'll probably last a number of years and then probably need a booster again. Another question is flying out. How many days do I come out here for? Let's say keratoconus treatments or the wider eyes treatments. Those are the most common procedure indications that people come out here for. Typically, it's a 2-day trip or a 3-day trip. When people come here, we'll do the testing. And of course, as I explained before, we wash our hands very thoroughly with the hand sanitizer. All the staff, we're very meticulous about hygiene, wiping down the equipment and the surfaces all the time as well. And so like when people come out, let's say for keratoconus, for let's say a 2-day trip, we'll do the testing, and then I'll meet with you and discuss my recommendations. And also I want to ask about your goals and expectations as well, so I can understand where you're coming from, so we can, discuss what the plan will be to help you achieve your goals too. Then the next day we'll do the procedures, and oftentimes I'll check people right afterwards as well. And then there are people usually able to go back to the hotel after that checkup and rest. And like there's a gentleman who was just here, like from the Midwest, and he and his wife, we did the procedures today, and then I saw him afterwards, after the last in the sequence, because he had Intax CK and HOLCOMB C3R, and then checked him afterwards, and they're actually driving up the coast. He's not driving, his wife's driving. That's usually a 2-day trip with keratoconus. I'm going to conclude the webinar. I'd really like to thank everybody for being here, and hopefully this was helpful and educational. If we didn't get to your questions, not a problem. We will absolutely be able to address them. So you can email info@boxerwalkler.com, or just call the office 310-860-1900. We're always here to help in any capacity that we can. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.